Well, welcome to the Beyond Cinema and Bio.com studio up here at TIFF. Richard Loncraine.
Thank you.
Congrats on having the film here and working with these amazing people. Obviously, having Morgan Freeman and Diane Keaton at the center of the story makes it kind of a warm, fuzzy feeling all around as soon as you tell someone about the film and who you're working with. So what is it like as a director? I mean, going back to Richard III with such an amazing cast in that film with Annette Bening and Robert Downey and all these incredible people. Does your job change as a result of that? Does it become more collaborative, or like how is it? How does that change
you
the
mean
universe?
Compared to working now compared to then and the film? It changes. I mean, that's the great thing about being a director is you never know what you're doing. Well, I don't. You never know. Not only they don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm doing next. And that applies to every day, not just every movie. I mean, I would jump around with films because I like to do different things and learn different stuff. But the great thing about making films is every day is different. There's no. You never get bored. You'd be insane to get bored. And working with actors of the caliber that I was lucky to have enough in this film, it makes it easier and harder. You know, but big movie stars have their own complexities. Because they have so much to lose, you know, in some situations, if they make a bad movie, they can be nervous. In this situation, I had two actors who just enjoyed each other, and I didn't. Yeah, you know, every time you do a take, you have an opinion, and you have to go, but you nudge them. You just gently nudge. You know, you don't do a lot, and most of the time, and then suddenly it's all gone rat shit, and they're doing it really wrong, and you have to say that was crap. And the truth is, if you can say that was crap, and they don't hit you or walk off, then you know you're in a good place, because it is about trust. It's about them feeling confident enough that when I say that was crap, I mean that was crap compared to the genius work you did 8 minutes ago, and I'm not being rude to you, I'm just cutting through the bullshit and saying that was crap. Yeah. And if you're lucky, they like that. You can't bullshit actors of that caliber. They've seen too much of it in their lives.
Our photographer's favourite question is, where did you first meet these people? So in terms of sitting down with Morgan and Diane for the first time to talk them through the script, was it a case that they were just signed on to the project and everything came together, or did you sit at a cafe somewhere and have a discussion?
The scenario of this, it's different every time. This one, I chased the movie. A friend of mine wrote it, Charlie Peters, and they didn't have a director. Someone else had left or whatever. I'm never the first one in the barrel. There's always someone before me. Just don't ask, because one day they'll ask me first.
They'll tell you you're the first.
Yeah, they'll send me an offer, but I'll have just died the day before. Anyway, I wrote to Laurie McCreary, the producer of the film, who was Morgan's partner, and said I loved the script and would they consider me to direct it, and they said they would consider it. I met Laurie in London. We had 3 very good glasses of Burgundy in a hotel bar, and I went to leave, and she said, "Why are you going?" I said, "Well, thank you. You interviewed me. I'm sure you're bored with me now." She said, "Well, you're going to do the movie, aren't you?" Which was nice, because sometimes it can go on a bit, and so she was very trusting early on. And then I met Morgan, I think, when they came into town a couple of months later, just for half an hour, and he was doing a movie in town. And I'd always thought I'd like him, but you can never tell. He's an actor, and he might just act a really nice man, but he is a really, really nice man. And I become very fond of him. And so I'd met him before. We didn't discuss the script much. Morgan's very much, what you see is what you get. He's a pilot, and he can't fly sadly because of his arm anymore, but he was a very good, jet pilot. So he's a mechanical man. He doesn't deal with ephemera like that. Very astute. And so he liked the script. He'd seen my work. He'd get on with it. Let's do the job. Diane, I was not able to meet. Once she'd read the script, she felt there were things that were wrong with it for her, and she was right, there were. It was really written initially as more of a one-hander, and quite rightly she said, well, if I'm going to be in it, I want to have a bit more of it, and so we did. Charlie and I kind of worked on the script quite a lot and made her part. You've got to make sure you don't just build the part for no reason, it's got to be integral, and Charlie managed to make that work, and we had about 3 or 4 long Skype conversations from where I was living in France at the time, and then I didn't meet her until 2 days before we started shooting, which was unusual.
In New York?
Yeah, New York, because she was writing a book and I couldn't get over there because we only had 5 weeks prep on the film. The money came together at the last minute, as it sounds like that.
Yeah.
So it was a different, I'd met Morgan before, but not really, I didn't know him. And I didn't have time for rehearsal, which is what I usually like to do.
And so not having that time to rehearse and kind of jumping straight into that with and Cynthia Nixon as well coming into that picture, did you end up finding that you then were improvising more and doing more takes and trying to find those pieces of the puzzle for yourself?
I don't think we did. I mean, for me, rehearsal's about rehearsing each other, not about rehearsing the dialogue. We use the dialogue as a way of finding out. First of all, for me, I find out what scenes actors are worried about, because it's not often the scene that I think is difficult, it's the scene that they think is difficult. So it's about getting them to trust me a bit. But it was fine. You can't, it's stepping into the unknown. You never know what's going to happen that first day, and you've got to, as quickly as possible, get the crew, who I didn't know a single person on the crew, because I hadn't shot a film in New York. I'd done commercials years ago, but no crew. And I didn't know a single actor personally, which if I'm back home in England, I probably can't, from a kind of group of actors that I've known over the years. So it was but it was great. I loved being thrown in the mix of, didn't have much money, so we had a very mixed crew. We had some real old lags, that, like me, who, have kind of they weren't working as much anymore, either because they didn't want to or they couldn't get the work, but they had a wealth of experience, so they would come to work for less than the best money in town, God bless them. And then the young ones who were wanting to be trained and were learning, they came in. We had a very good mix of men and women, which I like on the set, so it was a really good group of people, and everyone fed off each other.
That's cool. It's like you've added a level of dynamic to it, to the situation, by having to leave the family behind.
I think we did, yeah. Sometimes it's good to be thrown into a place that you don't know, and I was taught very, very early on and I used a science program when I was a kid for television called Tomorrow's World, by the journalist who was an ex-Daily Mail journalist, picture a tough Hollywood Fleet Street journalist. He said, don't bullshit. If you don't know what you're doing, just tell people you don't know what you're doing. And I've never forgotten it, and I still do it to this day. On a crew, you see young directors who haven't had the benefit of that advice. They'll suddenly go, let's put a 50 mil down. No, that's wrong. A 70 mil. Can we open it? I don't know. And the crew are going, oh fuck, he doesn't know what he's doing. You just got to say, excuse me guys, I don't know what I'm doing. Go and have a cup of tea. And they're happy. They know. Fine. Everyone's had a time when they're stuck. You just have to let people know that, and then they'll help you. So it's great.
Dorothy the dog was probably the biggest proponent of that.
Yes,
attitude.
Dorothy was tricky.
Yeah.
Dorothy, I don't know, all the cliches about dogs are absolutely true. They don't do what they're told, and they're never trained, and it was meant to do all sorts of things it didn't do.
It was an old dog that couldn't learn new tricks.
It could, it was a young dog that couldn't learn old tricks either. But I guess we just got by. But it's interesting, the dog thing, because I love animals. I've got a cat at home that I completely adore, this cat. But I'm not very sentimental about that stuff. And I wanted to kill the dog. I did a draft with Charlie. Well, actually, I kind of worked on it, even bullied Charlie. And Laurie McCreary and said, no, you can't do this. And I almost persuaded her. And then they managed to tell, and I was absolutely wrong. Killing the dog, last night, I don't know if you were at that gala screening, but people's reactions in North America to animals is diametrically opposed to a European audience. You would not get people oohing and ahhing when a dog puts its paw through a cage. So there's always something to learn, and I thank God I didn't kill the dog, because you wouldn't be interviewing me, because the film wouldn't be here.
That's right. I would have introduced you as
the dog killer.
The dog killer,
exactly.
Yes, that's right. Kill one dog.
Yeah.
So, also, Englishman in New York, Sting wrote a song about it.
He did, wonderful song too.
Did you feel like a fish out of water, or because New York has such a presence, and this film is so much about kind of Williamsburg and all the things that kind of happen around it, and its gentrification and all that sort of stuff, or was it just so kind of parallel to what's been going on in parts of London?
Well, I'm married to an American, have been for 35 years or something. We met in New York. I've always loved the city. My son's lived here, so he's a writer. He's lived in Williamsburg for 5-6 years. So over the years, I've spent a lot of time in Manhattan, and always wanted to make a movie set here. So no, I kind of I had In fact, I bought a British production design. I didn't know one person. I bought Brian Morris production design from England, who's made lots of great movies in Manhattan.
In terms of your own mentorship, it's kind of like, I know that probably a lot of people look to you for guidance and advice, but who was it along your route to now that provided that guidance and advice for you?
For me, probably, I guess Nick Rogue was John Schlesinger, probably. I was John Schlesinger's assistant for some while, and I made a movie. I met him with Judy Christie as a friend, and I met him through her, and I did a film called Sunday Bloody Sunday, where I used to build kinetic art when I was a sculptor, and I was hired to build all the things that Murray Head was meant to have made. So I met John then, and John, watching John on the set, so I became a friend. I watched him on many movies. He was underrated, sounds rude, but young people don't really know much about John Schlesinger, and Midnight Cowboy is one of the great movies, and John was a great, gave me great advice. And watching him work, and watching him, because he wasn't very mechanical. I'm reasonably pretty technical, I guess, it would be fair to say. But he showed me that in the end, none of that matters if you can't get the actors to deliver the goods. He could.
Very cool. Well, thanks for sharing that. Thanks for coming in for a few minutes.
Nice to meet you. Really enjoyed it.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.